Hello and welcome back to Homeschool Together. We are rocking our black uniforms here.
I know, like I didn't get the black shirt memo.
And we're kind of in the new studio. We're still figuring it out. We got to put stuff on the walls. We got a few things to put around.
Bland
some lights and stuff, but we're getting there. See how we slowly progress over time.
We're trying to work on it.
It's sort of like scope and sequence homeschooling. We just like keep layering things on.
That's right.
Eventually we're going to get this thing down after 2 years.
Yeah, eventually.
Today we're talking about a new thing that we were doing. We've done the around the world journey. A lot of you guys have followed along, and we really appreciate that. We did that. So
fun.
The Build Your Library and Torchlight combination. Now we are doing the Blossom and Root and Build Your Library combinations. Ariel, why do we keep comboing things?
Because I just can't stop.
She can't stop. And you guys can't stop as well.
You know, so we are planning. We love to Build Your Library, and we do plan to continue with that sequence ahead with our daughter. And the next level, so between Build Your Library 0 is Around the World, Build Your Library 1 is Ancient Civilizations. And we were like, wait a minute. If we jump in Ancient Civilizations, we're going to miss dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And we cannot miss dinosaurs, folks.
Yeah.
So,
what 6 or 7 year old doesn't like dinosaurs?
Right? So we figured, okay, we got to do dinosaurs, and Build Your Library has a prehistory unit study that you can do. It's only 6 weeks, so it's kind of short, but Blossom and Root, their grade 3 science, well, part of their grade 3 science, is Wonders of the Prehistoric World. And I mean, it's pretty darn awesome.
So, yeah.
So we really decided like, well, okay, we're going to dive into this. We want to give our kids a great foundation before we start Ancient Civilizations, because there was a whole lot of history before people came. So it's really great. One of the things that I really like about it, Blossom and Root and Build Your Library, they kind of dovetail really well together. So Build Your Library, the first of 6 weeks, the first 3 weeks is a very quick overview. It's like, hey, the origins of the universe, and here's some dinosaurs, sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. The last 3 is like very heavily once the rise of man, the Neanderthal, and the evolution of man into kind of the Stone Age. So that's like the last 3 weeks. It gives very intensive time to. But the first 3 weeks of, what is that, like, I'm gonna misquote the millions of years.
3 billion years.
Okay, the first 3 billion years just gets like covered in the first 3 weeks. Whereas Blossom and Root, they have 13 wonders, and you could take however long you want to do those. But of the 13, nearly all of them, I think like 11 of them, are everything before man.
Yep.
So they have a whole lot of time about the Big Bang and Precambrian and all the different eras that happen. And then they have like 5 different wonders all about dinosaurs. So the two kind of pair really well together. And I had heard of other people doing this combination. We'd had a couple of readers tell us, or listeners tell us, that they were going to do this combo, and I had read about it, and I was like, I mean, why not? Like, exactly. You know, our time is our own, right? We have a first grader. We're partway through the start of our first grade year,
and we homeschool all year round. So it does give us a little bit more of a leeway on, you know, where we can apply our time and how we can do our curriculums and what we can do. So we talked a little bit of the structure, but so let's get into, like, you know, specifically the Blossom and Root curriculum. You know, what does that look like?
Right.
You know, how is the program laid out, and what is included?
Right. So do you want a Vanna for us? We have it right here.
Ariel does a wonderful job at building wonderful tools for me to execute. I am just a simple potato farmer, as I like to say, and I execute and I plant the potatoes and I grow potatoes. But she does all the planning work, and so that is what this is. And I think on the backside as well.
That's the Blossom. We haven't gotten there yet.
We haven't got there yet.
So show Blossom and Root. Okay, so for Blossom and Root, as I said, it's these 13 wonders. Each one is broken up. There's 4, usually like 4 kind of big picture messages that she wants you to take away. So this is pretty heady stuff. I mean, this is meant for 3rd grade, and obviously we're doing this with a first grader. So there's some of that is aged up, and we have to kind of compensate. But even for a 3rd grader, I mean, frankly, even for an adult, some of this is very heady material.
Well, you know, the funny thing is, you know, as we were looking through it, a lot of times with the books and stuff, this is stuff I don't think I've ever covered.
We have never covered this.
Tangentially from, like, you know, nature documentary here, dinosaur documentary here, or history of the earth documentary here. Kind of got a little bit of it, but like, you don't get into the depth that these curriculums are going to do, and the books that we'll talk about, you know, as we vlog our way through this. But there is so much depth there that
we are learning so much stuff. I mean, as a product of public school and a product of private school,
Yep.
we never covered any of this stuff.
No.
So it's pretty cool. I literally, before we started this program, and we're like 3 weeks in. So as we record this, we're getting caught up with y'all. But I literally knew like Big Bang, primordial soup, something crawls on land, dinosaurs,
somehow the moon was formed.
Neanderthal.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is the base level of my adult understanding, which is really pitiful. Yeah. And I realized through this, it's like, I never thought, oh wow, there's a huge gap in my knowledge here about the history of the universe, until we started this and started looking into it, and I went, wow, yeah. That's really sad. I know almost nothing. My public school education taught me almost nothing. So this is really great for us. So anyways, so you've got because this is heady material, there are 4 big picture messages at the front. And
that's something we, just as a side, that's something we talked about in our Around the World journey, really condensing the focus so that the learner can get something to take, that they can take with them after they've, done whatever they've learned about, or whatever books you've read about, or whatever you've learned during that time period. They have something they can take with them. And I love how she does that. So basically, like, here's the first page. I have the first one here printed out. So basically, she will list out these 4 topics. Right. Sometimes is it always 4? I think it's
usually 4, and it's those big picture messages. These are the things that she really wants.
Super important.
So it's like you can either read those to your learner, or you can just have them in your head, and as you're going through the different books, like these are the real emphasis. Like, we get done with this week. These are kind of the 4 things we would really like for our kids to understand.
But also as an educator, as a guide, it's so helpful that she gives you those things. So it helps you focus, because a lot of times I was going into it, I didn't know very much.
Right.
And I would have to then piece and parse together what are the key topics. The fact that she's done that for you really helps you as an educator dive into a topic that you may not have a lot of experience with or a lot of knowledge. Like when we were doing the Around the World, like you have some decent knowledge about all these countries, but this is something that was like, basically foreign, and having that as a guide is super helpful. I can't overstate that enough.
Yeah, it's really great. And then so the rest of the week, so you've got your big picture messages, and then it's broken into wonder and explore. Okay, so the wonder is media you're going to consume, whether it's videos or books or it's things you're going to learn, and then explore is where you start getting hands-on. So for wonder, you're supposed to pick one or all of the things, right? So for the minimalists, there's a small section, it's just a spine reading. She's got some spine books in there. They're great. We will go over them in subsequent videos. But, so this is just the spine reading. And then it says for the book basket, folks, and here's a couple extra books, which we love because we love the extra books.
We love the extra books.
And then there's a whole section for the visual learners, and it's a bunch of videos from PBS Eons. Typically, she has some others sometimes, but mostly it's this PBS show called Eons, which is fantastic. They're all short. They're all like
5 to 8 minutes long.
Yeah, they're all sub 10 minutes. So really great. High production value.
Super high production.
Really good. And so that's all the wonder part. So you can do all of it. You could just do the minimalist. You could just do minimalist and book basket. Just do minimalist and videos. You do you. So it gives you some flexibility. And then in the explore section, she's got a project, an activity for outdoor learners. So it's like 1 week, maybe it'll be like make mud prints like dinosaurs would make.
Make some trace fossils in mud.
Right. Maybe that would be one of them for outdoor learners. And then there is an activity for the table lab crowd, which is going to be a bit more of a sciencey activity of whatever it is. And then there's for the arts and crafts family, and it's for you to do something
arts and craftsy.
Yes.
And what's great about it is in each and every one of those, she gives you not just one idea, but sometimes multiple ideas for you to choose from. And based on what resources you have or how much time you have.
What your interest is.
Yeah, what the interest was for that week. What did your learner really, really like from all the books they were reading? I tend to push those to the end of the week so that I can then, pick out what they're actually kind of interested in and then maybe do the activity that is tailored to that. but she gives you multiple ideas, and you can kind of like combine a few, take an idea
I love
here.
it. I
It's
love
wonderful.
that you don't have to feel you have to do everything,
Yeah.
which is great. And you can just pick the things that most match with what your family wants to do or your kids are interested in, the materials you have on hand. So it's great. So every week is done that way. And then the last part is record. And there is a student notebook.
Second binder, and it's just very simple.
It's so, it's drawings and whatever amount of writing. Now, our daughter's very young, so we don't do a ton of writing. We do more drawing-based stuff.
We do have to remember, I think the Blossom and Root was tailored for a
third
grader, so there's an expectation that they would have some additional writing. So scale it up or down. You can do copy work instead if your learner isn't ready to write full-on sentences about what they learned. I had her do some pictures and things like that, and that has served.
It's been fine.
It's been just fine.
Yeah, it's been something that the things she's most interested in, and she gets to draw it, and I think that that's great.
Using a lot of the beautiful artwork that's in the books as guides for that, especially if you're doing it with an earlier learner.
Yeah.
Really helpful.
Yeah, I think it's been great. So that's the way that Blossom and Root is set up. And then Build Your Library is, as we said, in 6 weeks. And it's set up with some basic reading. So you've got your spines, you've got a couple of alternate books to do. She's got vocabulary words for you to start building.
So Build Your Library if you want to take a look at it.
Yep. So she's got some vocabulary words. You can start building a reference of some key vocabulary words for each week. There's some copy work and dictation. That stuff is talked about kind of in the beginning of the unit study, because this unit study doesn't have a particular grade level on it, but it's going to be that, mid-elementary. It's not, I don't think that the Build Your Library is as heady, as old as the Blossom and Root. Definitely, I feel like
maybe
you
it's
could
tailored to younger.
Well, it's got vocabulary and copy work dictation, which I feel like some of that vocabulary is a bit much. So maybe it would be more tailored to second grade and up, but then the Blossom and Root more tailored to third grade. So you could adjust it, but there's still a few things in there we're not really taking too much advantage of because our daughter is younger. But there is this building your vocabulary. And then there's going to be some media. She gives some video links occasionally, and then an activity.
There's some web addresses as well. You can look.
Yeah, a few things. It's not media heavy, that's for sure. Of course, Build Your Library is a lit-based curriculum, so it wouldn't be. But there's much less to do per week in Build Your Library than there is in Blossom and Root. So that's kind of, and then there's this big overarching timeline project. So for every week that you go through, you're creating this large timeline you can put on the wall to help your kids kind of grasp the understanding of how much time has really passed.
And that's one of the biggest challenges as we've gone through the first couple of weeks is trying to get yourself to understand billions of years went by,
It's
and mind-boggling, and helping your young learner understand that time scale is very difficult. It's the first big challenge, I think, if you're going to do this, is you got to get your kid past that hurdle of understanding the timelines, like millions and hundreds. We're talking about hundreds of millions of years.
As much as any of us can really understand that. But there is a really great book in the first week of Build Your Library. We'll talk about how much is a million, and it helps. A lot of the books try to do a really good job of giving you a sense of the time scale, even though it's really hard to wrap our heads around, and especially hard for our kids. That being said, that's the way that these two are set up. And then for the combo of the two of them, really, we basically took the first chunk of Blossom and Root. So it's going to be the first 12, and you basically do those in order, and then you do, I think maybe it's all the way through 13, and then you tack on the last 3 weeks of Build Your Library. So the first 3 weeks of Build Your Library are interspersed throughout Blossom and Root.
So Blossom and Root is basically the main core of this combo, and then you're basically sprinkling Build Your Library throughout.
So
if you're at home and you're trying to structure it, I think that's how you did it. You just laid Blossom and Root.
And I have a structure of this, just like I did a sequence for the Around the World Journey. And so I have a structured sequence of this, and you are welcome to have it. Just go ahead and email me or message me your proofs of purchase for both of the curriculums, and I'd be happy to share it with you, because it is hard to put it together. And I did have some help from a listener did send me what she did, and I had some other things, and I kind of amalgamated and made my own thing. Absolutely. So so I have the whole sequence put out, but in general, that's kind of what we're doing. I think the 13th week of Blossom and Root maybe is the very last thing you do. So But, essentially you're going to be sprinkling Build Your Library through the first, through most of Blossom and Root, and then you're going to be doing really heavy focus on Build Your Library towards the end. So that's the way that we comboed. I have also added more chapter books because we are a big reading family, and as much as we love picture books, our daughter loves a good meaty chapter book. So the only chapter book in all of this is Maru of the Winter Caves, which is in Build Your Library, and there isn't anything else. So I used the history book by book resource that Emily Cook put together. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. It's a fantastic resource if you want to find other books by time period. So I used that, and I picked out a bunch of other books, and I've put them into our sequence, and we'll see how they go. Some of them are a little long, and so we'll see what happens with those, but I'm interested to check those out because I think that there's such a deeper understanding when you can really dive into a chapter book. Picture books are awesome, but it's a little bit different to live with a character for a week or 2 weeks. So that's what we're planning to do.
So that's our combo. That's what we're going to be doing, I think, for the next 13, 14 weeks, sometime into the new year. So it's 2022, and we'll get into the 2023. And I think we will finish sometime in the February timeframe. So we're gearing this up to be about a 3 or 4 month period. And what we're going to do is about every week or every segment that we do, we're going to put out a video like this where we'll talk about what we did for the week, just like we did with the Around the World journey.
Because we're adding supplemental books because I can't help myself.
Can't help ourselves.
I just can't.
And so we'll talk about the books that are listed, and I know the book lists are public info, so we will talk about those books.
We'll talk about what we can. We don't want to divulge anything that, of course, requires purchase of the curriculum, because both Christina Garner and Emily Cook are fantastic creators, and we really want to support them. So if you're at all interested in this, I think it's really worth the purchase. Of course, Build Your Library you can get just as a standalone because it's a unit study, but Blossom and Root you can also just buy this module from their grade 3. So that's really cool too. You don't have to buy the entire 3rd grade curriculum if you really just want to do this piece, and that's what we did. We just bought this piece. So so stay tuned. We've got lots to talk about. Of course, we're going to be doing lots of extra things because we can't help ourselves. So stick with us as we dive into prehistory.